Have you ever sat next to someone you loved and still felt completely alone? She's there, physically, breathing the same air, sharing the same couch, scrolling through her phone like nothing's changed. But everything has. The glow in her eyes when you walk into the room, gone. The soft laughter that used to follow your jokes, replaced by silence or a half-hearted smirk. You ask her something simple, like, "What's wrong?" She says, "Nothing." But your gut, your soul knows better. Something has shifted. And no matter how much you try to rationalize it, pretend it's just a mood, a phase, a bad week, it lingers. The distance grows. Quietly, ruthlessly. This video is not here to plant paranoia in your heart. It's not for the insecure, not for the emotionally reactive. This is for men who sense the truth, but haven't had the words to name it. Men who feel the silence in the room louder than any scream. Men who are done second-guessing themselves just to keep a woman close. We're here to bring clarity, not chaos. To show you what's really happening beneath the surface, not so you can control her, but so you can reclaim your own strength. Stoicism teaches us this. We do not control others, only our own mind, our own reactions. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, Marcus Aurelius once wrote. That is the compass we follow in this video. Not to expose her, but to illuminate you. Because when a woman begins emotionally checking out, she rarely announces it. She doesn't pack her bags and leave a note. She withdraws in small ways. Her laughter fades. Her phone becomes a fortress. Her presence dissolves like vapor in your hands. But if you know what to look for, if you're awake enough, still enough, you can see it happening. And that's where your power begins. Awareness is everything. Today, we'll explore 10 deeply revealing signs that she's slowly pulling away, not just from the relationship, but from you. And more importantly, we'll learn how a Stoic man responds, with calm, clarity, and unshakable self-respect. If you've ever questioned your own instincts, if you've ever looked into her eyes and felt like you were talking to a stranger, this video is for you. Take a moment, breathe deep, and if these truths resonate, subscribe to Stoic now. Not because you need another channel, but because you need a sanctuary. A space where men speak truth without fear, where inner power is honored more than outer approval. Now let's begin. And as we do, I want you to ask yourself just one thing. Is she still here, or have you just not accepted that she already left? Let's find out together. Number 1. The vanishing presence. It begins with a whisper. You're in the same room, sharing the same space, but something feels off. You reach for her, not physically, but with your presence, with a story from your day, a light-hearted joke, a warm glance. And what returns to you? A nod, a flat, a reply so shallow it barely qualifies as recognition. The woman who used to light up when you walked in now stares through you, distracted, disengaged. Her body is near, but her spirit? It's elsewhere. This is the first sign, and often the most painful. Stoicism teaches us to trust not just in what is spoken, but in what is revealed through behavior. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." In love, this means you don't demand affection, you don't beg for connection, you pay attention. And what you're noticing now is a disappearance not marked by absence, but by emotional erosion. 6 months ago, maybe less, you'd sit beside her and feel the warmth. She'd lean in, touch your arm, smile with her whole being. Now, she scrolls endlessly while you talk. You mention something important to you. She doesn't look up. You ask how her day was. She says, "Fine," and that's the end of it. Not because she's tired, but because she's detached. And you feel it. It's not about clinginess. It's about presence. Presence is the soul's way of saying, "You matter to me right now." When that vanishes, even if she still shares your bed, you're no longer in a relationship. You're sharing proximity with someone whose heart may already be drifting. Most men, when they feel this shift, do the exact thing that drains them further. They chase. They talk more, try harder, try to fix it. But a Stoic man does something different. He steps back, not out of fear, but out of clarity. He doesn't collapse into the need for reassurance. He returns to himself, his routine, his discipline, his calm. He doesn't fight to be seen. He observes whether she wants to see him at all. Here's a truth few want to admit. When someone starts to leave you emotionally, they often do so silently. They don't start a war. They disappear gently, like morning fog in sunlight. You're left questioning your own senses. Am I imagining this? Is she just stressed? But the body doesn't lie. Her posture closes. Her voice dulls. Her laughter disappears. And her eyes, once soft, inviting, now seem distant, always somewhere else. It's easy to ignore this, to convince yourself that it's a rough patch, that you just need a weekend away, a dinner out. But if presence doesn't return, if connection doesn't rekindle, you're clinging to a memory, not a relationship. So what does a Stoic man do? He does not accuse. He does not overcompensate. He does not lose himself chasing the fading light in her eyes. Instead, he becomes still. He lets silence speak. He observes not just her, but himself, his own needs, his own values, his own peace. Because in the end, peace is not found in another's affection. It is found in your ability to recognize the truth, to face it, and to live with strength regardless. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, if someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. It is the truth I seek, and the truth never harmed anyone. The same applies to love. When the truth shows up, when her presence fades, you don't run. You don't rage. You recognize. And you begin again. Now, take a breath. Reflect on that feeling, that knowing, and prepare, because in the quietest hours of the night, another sign reveals itself. Let's move forward. Number 2, when the night goes cold. Nightfall used to be your sacred time. The world would slow, distractions would fade, and in that quiet space between dusk and dreams, she'd reach for you, not just with hands, but with words, with presence. A soft, good night, a laugh over something small, a photo shared, a voice note just to say she missed you. It was in the silence of the evening that your connection deepened, like the moon pulling gently on the tide of your soul. But now the night is silent, and not the peaceful kind. She no longer checks in before sleep. Your messages go unread until morning. You send a text at 9 p.m., something sweet, maybe even a memory of better days, and you watch the screen stay still. Yet moments later, you see she's online. A new story posted. A comment liked. But you? Invisible. This is not coincidence. It is a pattern. And the Stoic recognizes patterns as whispers of truth. Epictetus taught, it is not events that disturb us, but our opinions about them. And yet, some nights, you can't shake that sinking feeling that you are no longer part of her inner world. You are on the outside of a wall she quietly built, one brick at a time, each one placed with a delayed reply, each one mortared by indifference. Here's the hard truth no one says aloud. Emotional disconnection doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it fades like a song slowly turned down. You don't notice it at first, but eventually, all you hear is your own voice, echoing in the dark. This isn't just her being busy. This is selective silence. A choice not to engage. A decision to withhold what once flowed freely. And when you bring it up, gently, sincerely, what do you hear? Don't overthink it. Or worse, you're being needy. But you're not being needy. You're being aware. Awareness is not desperation. It's discernment. And discernment is the virtue that separates the reactive from the resilient. The Stoic man does not spiral. He does not double text. He does not perform in the hopes of regaining attention. He notices. He logs the moment. And he redirects, not his love, but his energy. He pours it into what is real, his craft, his body, his mind, his brothers, his purpose. He understands that validation which must be chased is no validation at all. And let's not pretend this doesn't hurt. Because it does. The space that was once filled with her presence now echoes. It feels like abandonment, but dressed in quiet avoidance. That moment when you used to feel safe, now feels cold. So what do? You remember who you are. You are not a man who begs to be heard in the space where you once felt cherished. You are not a man who trades his peace for temporary warmth. You are not a man who fears the truth simply because it shows up after 8 p.m. You are a man who faces silence with strength, who walks alone if he must, but never walks away from clarity. And when the night goes cold, and the voice you once waited for no longer comes, you light a fire within. That fire is your awareness. That fire is your standard. That fire is your unshakable center. Now, look closer. If nighttime silence has become a routine, it's time to ask, who benefits from your confusion? Who stays comfortable while you stay in the dark? Number 3, the fortress in her palm. It begins subtly. A quick glance, a tucked-away grin, a sudden shift when you walk into the room. Her phone, once left screen up on the coffee table, now flips face down with the grace of a reflex. It goes with her everywhere, the bathroom, the kitchen, even under her pillow. What once was just a tool now feels like a locked vault. And you're not imagining things. In Stoic terms, Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What once was shared openly now hides behind passcodes and turnbacks. Her phone, the small device that once held music, shared memes, inside jokes now feels like a portal she steps into, one where you're no longer invited. But this isn't about control. It's not about passwords or prying. A Stoic does not seek dominion over what is not his to command. This is about energy, behavior, truth, and how it shifts when trust begins to erode. The phone becomes a fortress when there's something inside it worth protecting, and not from the world, but from you. Let me be clear, privacy is a right. Secrecy, though, is something different. Privacy builds respect. Secrecy builds walls. And when secrecy enters a relationship, it rarely walks alone. It brings doubt, distance, and emotional evasion as its silent companions. She used to laugh with you over text her friends sent. "Look at this," she'd say, turning her screen your way. "I'm sparkling." Now she turns away to reply. She clutches it tighter when you sit down beside her. She takes longer to respond when you're in the room, waits until you walk out to react to a notification. These aren't coincidences. They're micro-behaviors. And the Stoic man watches these shifts not to accuse, but to understand. Not to lash out, but to anchor himself in reality. If you confront her too soon, she may accuse you of being insecure. "Why are you so paranoid?" she'll say. "Can I have a little space?" And maybe you'll question yourself, should you be more trusting? But here's the truth. Trust should not be blind. Trust is not a blanket you throw over silence. It is built on consistency, openness, and mutual respect. When that openness fades, when the phone becomes an altar she prays to in secret, you must notice. The Stoic man doesn't go through her messages. He doesn't beg for reassurance. He simply observes. And he remembers, a woman who has nothing to hide, hides nothing. Not her smile, not her time, not her truth. Let's go deeper. Why does this shift matter? Because in modern life, digital space is emotional space. Where someone's attention goes, their heart often follows. And if she's giving more emotion, laughter, and conversation to a screen than she does to your voice, that's not a red flag, it's a full signal flare. But again, do not react. Do not spiral. That's what a weak man does. A Stoic man remains calm. He does not lose himself trying to hold on to someone already drifting. He pulls back his energy, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. And in that stillness, he finds clarity. He remembers, her behavior is hers. His response is his. So when her phone becomes a fortress, you don't storm the gates. You stand tall at your post. You observe. You prepare. And most of all, you protect your own peace. Because the man who sees clearly cannot be manipulated. Number 4. When truth becomes threat. You ask a simple question. Nothing loaded, nothing accusing. Just curiosity wrapped in calm. "Hey, who just texted you?" But her reaction doesn't match the tone. It's sudden, sharp, defensive. "Why do you always assume the worst? Can't I have a normal conversation without being interrogated?" You're being paranoid. And just like that, the focus shifts. You're no longer the man asking a question. You've been cast as the villain, the jealous one, the unstable one. Not because your question was wrong, but because your question got too close to the truth. This is the moment where many men start to doubt themselves, where clarity gives way to confusion. And it's no accident. This is the classic script reversal. Not because she's scared of being misunderstood, but because she's protecting something or someone. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." But this kind of reaction isn't bravery. It's a diversion tactic. Because nothing threatens a hidden agenda like calm, curious honesty. And when she senses that you're getting too close to clarity, the only way to deflect is to make you feel like your very act of asking was a mistake. Let's break it down. A woman at peace with her actions answers with peace. She explains, smiles, reassures without drama. But a woman hiding something doesn't answer the question. She attacks it. Not because she has something noble to defend, but because she has something to hide. You may have experienced it. A sudden shift in tone. A look of offense so theatrical it feels rehearsed. And slowly, you begin to think, maybe I shouldn't have asked. That's how the power begins to slip away. But a Stoic man does not surrender truth for the sake of temporary peace. He understands that defensiveness over an innocent question is not just a red flag. It's a mirror, revealing more than words ever could. Epictetus taught, if someone speaks badly of you, and it's true, correct yourself. If it's a lie, laugh. Now ask yourself, if your question had no merit, why wasn't it met with laughter? Why did it rattle her so deeply? It's because guilt is loud. Even when disguised as indignation, guilt has a sound, and the Stoic learns to recognize it not with emotion, but with stillness. She may even try to flip the entire situation on you, call you controlling, Say you're the insecure one. But remember this, manipulation doesn't always come with malice. Sometimes it comes with silence, with sarcasm, with strategic guilt tripping. And your job? Not to argue, not to over-explain, but to observe. To step back and log the data, not for revenge, but for awareness. Because once you start editing yourself to avoid upsetting someone who is hiding something, you're no longer living in truth. You're living in her fiction. The Stoic response? You don't chase apologies. You don't double text for clarity. You pull your emotional energy back and place it somewhere worthy. Your craft, your health, your calling. Because no matter how much someone wants to confuse you, your calm presence will always be more unsettling than their drama. And that, my friend, is your greatest weapon. Number 5, she twists the conversation to blame you. You ask gently, is something wrong between us? Hoping for honesty, maybe even a bridge to be rebuilt. But what you receive isn't openness, it's an accusation. Why are you so insecure? You're always looking for something to blame. Suddenly, the spotlight is no longer on the distance you feel, it's on your supposed weakness. This isn't misunderstanding. This is inversion. You've brought your concern to the table, only to be made the issue yourself. It's a subtle manipulation, cloaked in deflection, and it leaves you wondering, was I wrong to ask? Did I imagine the shift? The Stoics would call this a moment to pause, not to react, but to recognize. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth. But what happens when the truth is constantly evaded, twisted, or thrown back at you? You begin to question your own instincts. You start to tiptoe around your emotions, walking on conversational eggshells. You hesitate before expressing doubt, not out of wisdom, but fear of being blamed again. This is how a once stable relationship morphs into a subtle battlefield, where the only one being disarmed is you. A woman who values emotional connection listens. She doesn't always agree, but she doesn't weaponize your vulnerability. When you express concern, she meets it with clarity, not with accusations. But when she constantly flips the script, makes your feelings the enemy, it's a tactic. It's control through confusion. And here lies the Stoic response, not silence, not fury, but stillness with discernment. Don't accept the guilt that isn't yours. Speak once, calmly, I'm not accusing. I'm sharing what I feel. Then watch. If that is again turned into a flaw, walk away from the game. Because the Stoic knows, truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be seen. This kind of emotional turning is not love. It's a shield built not to protect the relationship, but to protect a truth someone doesn't want to face. And the more you try to reason with it, the deeper you fall into its web. So instead of spinning in that web, step out. Back into your clarity. Back into your calm. Because the moment you realize that love shouldn't make you doubt your sanity, you reclaim your power. Let's now continue to the hidden cuts dressed up as comedy, the next sign you can't afford to overlook. Conclusion. Walk like a Stoic, love like a king. This isn't just about signs or suspicions. It's about reclaiming your clarity when the fog of emotional disconnection starts to settle. It's about understanding that when someone's energy, attention, and presence vanish, your purpose doesn't have to vanish with it. You've walked through the signs, not to accuse or to catch, but to understand and awaken. Because the Stoic way is not fueled by fear. It's guided by awareness. Seneca wrote, "The gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." These trials, subtle betrayals, fading affections, emotional absences, are not here to break you. They are here to sharpen you. And the sharper you become, the more you can walk through life without bending to confusion, without collapsing under the weight of someone else's withdrawal. You've learned how to read the unspoken. You've recognized that silence has a weight, sarcasm has roots, and coldness has intent. But none of these define you. They reveal the temperature of the connection, but you decide the climate of your inner world. Let me say this clearly. You are not weak for noticing. You are not insecure for asking questions. And you are not wrong for expecting presence from someone who once gave it freely. Your instincts aren't paranoia. They're wisdom knocking on your heart's door. So if you felt the shift, the withdrawal, the silence, let that be your signal. Not to panic, but to pivot. Not to chase, but to choose. And above all, not to break, but to breathe. Come back to your center, your focus, your worth. Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. That's the heart of this video. To help you remember that even when love falters, your strength does not have to. Even when someone walks away, your mission does not crumble. Even when she stops choosing you, you still get to choose how to carry yourself, with grace, with stillness, and with power. If this video stirred something within you, If you recognized a piece of your own story, drop a comment. Share one sentence, one reflection, one truth. Your words might be the exact reminder another man needs to see clearly today. And if you found wisdom here, subscribe to Stoic now. Not just to support the channel, but to anchor yourself in a space where clarity is king and emotion bows to purpose. Until next time, remember, you don't need her presence to find your peace. And you don't need her words to write your next chapter. You only need the quiet certainty that your soul knows the way. Follow it and walk on. Number 6, mockery in disguise, the smile that cuts. You're sitting across from her, maybe at dinner, maybe in your living room, and you offer a small compliment. Something light, genuine, kind. But instead of warmth, she returns a laugh that feels cold. A joke that lands more like a jab than joy. That's cute, for someone who still hasn't figured life out. And in that moment, something inside you tightens. You smile, because it feels easier than confronting it. You laugh, but the sound doesn't reach your eyes. Because what she called a joke, your soul heard as a cut. This isn't humor. It's contempt, cloaked in comedy. And it's one of the most dangerous signs a man can overlook. See, when respect begins to fade from a relationship, it rarely leaves in a storm. It seeps out quietly, hidden in sarcasm, in just playing, in remarks designed to shrink you, not challenge you. And every time you bring it up, you're told the same thing. You're being too sensitive. Can't you take a joke? But inside, you feel the erosion. You know the difference between laughter that lifts and laughter that belittles. One heals, the other hollows. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." The Stoic response is not to mimic mockery with mockery. It's to hold your ground in dignity, to recognize that behind every joke, dripping with contempt, is often a truth someone doesn't want to speak plainly. Because when a woman no longer admires you, when she begins to resent you, whether from guilt, comparison, or emotional drift, those emotions don't always come out in anger. They often come out in snide remarks, in passive digs, in disguised disdain. Let me paint a picture. She used to cheer you on when you talked about your goals. Now she rolls her eyes and says, "Still chasing that dream, huh?" She used to giggle when you joked around. Now she says, "You really think you're funny, don't you?" That's not playfulness. That's poison. And if this becomes a pattern, if every conversation begins to feel like a test, every sentence met with smirks or silence, then you're not in a partnership. You're in a performance. One where your self-worth gets graded in real time, and the audience never claps. But here's the deeper tragedy. Many men tolerate it. Because the pain is subtle. The wounds are small. They don't bleed, but they bruise. Don't make that mistake. A man of dignity, of stoic clarity, does not stay where he's constantly reduced. He does not absorb disrespect and call it devotion. He sees clearly. He speaks calmly. If it happens once, you gently name it. That felt more like a put-down than a joke. Was that your intent? You don't accuse. You don't escalate. You draw a line. But if it keeps happening, if the respect continues to erode, masked behind smiles that feel sharp, you don't argue. You don't explain. You step back. Because love can't grow where contempt is planting roots. Seneca taught, "He who respects himself is safe from being offended." That doesn't mean we become emotionless. It means we honor our own boundaries, and we walk away from patterns that strip us of peace. So if you've been feeling like every conversation is another test to pass, if you've been smiling through jabs and calling it love, stop. Observe. Reflect. And above all, remember this. You don't earn real love by accepting hidden disrespect. Number 7. When the mirror isn't for you. One day, something shifts. It starts small, a new hairstyle, a change in gym routine, a bold outfit you've never seen before. At first, you admire the transformation. But then you notice, none of it includes you. She doesn't ask what you think. She doesn't invite you to join. She glows up, but you're no longer reflected in the mirror. Now, let's be clear, growth is good. Reinvention is beautiful. But when someone begins to reinvent themselves and quietly writes you out of that narrative, it's not just self-care, it may be silent separation. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." But what if her vision no longer includes you? What then? A woman still emotionally invested includes you in her evolution. "Do you like this look?" she asks. "Want to come shopping with me?" She smiles. But when her tone becomes secretive, her appearance changes drastically, and her social media lights up with curated highlights that you're not part of, that's not curiosity. That's detachment. You notice she posts more but says less. She laughs online but grows quieter at home. She's updating, uploading, reinventing, but her relationship with you is stuck on pause. And here's where many men falter. They try to match her pace. They hit the gym harder, dress sharper, hoping she'll notice. But that's not Stoicism. That's chasing validation. A Stoic man doesn't run after someone who's running away. He realigns with his mission. He doesn't fight for space in her spotlight. He builds his own. So if you feel her glow up is a curtain call where you didn't get the script, don't audition harder. Exit the stage with grace. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop trying to be part of someone's story and write your own. Number 8. A future fading in silence. She used to speak in tomorrows. The two of you would dream out loud, trips to far-off places, homes you might build, even the name of a future dog. Those conversations didn't just pass time, they wove a sense of belonging. You weren't just her present, you were part of her imagined future. Now, those visions have vanished. You bring up plans, a summer getaway, holiday visits, maybe tickets to a concert months ahead. She shrugs. Let's not plan too far out. Or worse, she avoids the conversation altogether. Her words don't reject you outright, but her absence in those visions speaks volumes. The Stoics taught that assumptions are dangerous. Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen, Epictetus urged. But when someone stops including you in their hopes, you must stop assuming you're still in their heart. It's easy to rationalize. Maybe she's overwhelmed. Maybe life feels uncertain. Maybe. But deep down, you feel the truth. A woman who's emotionally invested in you includes you in her dreams. Not out of obligation, but instinct. When she starts picturing a future without your presence, she's already begun detaching. You'll notice it in subtle withdrawals. Conversations that once flowed now end with polite nods. She stops asking what you think 5 years from now should look like. Your name fades from her plans, replaced with vague language. Someday, maybe, we'll see. These aren't just softer ways of saying no, they're silent admissions that the bond is loosening. And here's where many men falter. They try to earn their place back in her future. They plan harder, suggest more, push optimism. But a Stoic knows, you don't force yourself into someone's dreams. You respect their silence as the message it is. Ask yourself this. If someone truly saw you in their life ahead, would you have to keep proving your place? A woman who envisions a future with you doesn't hesitate to say it. And if her silence has become the loudest voice in the room, then you must listen with more than ears, you listen with wisdom. So don't chase the future she no longer sees. Build one where you are celebrated, not sidelined. Because your vision of life deserves someone who wants to walk into it beside you, not someone who quietly walks away. Number 9. She no longer celebrates your wins. There comes a time when your joy begins to feel like an inconvenience. You land a new role, accomplish a personal goal, or simply have a good day. You reach for your phone, excited to share the moment. You expect a smile, a proud reply, a simple, "I'm happy for you." But instead, what you get is silence, or worse, deflection. "Oh, that's nice. Did I tell you what happened to me today?" It's not the lack of words, it's the absence of presence. You don't feel seen. You don't feel celebrated. Her attention floats away from your win as though it were nothing, and suddenly, what should have been a shared joy turns into a solitary echo. Seneca taught, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. And few moments call for kindness more than someone's vulnerable excitement. When you share your success with someone you love, you're not boasting. You're inviting them into your light. When that invitation is ignored or overshadowed, it creates a quiet fracture. This isn't just emotional forgetfulness. It's often the symptom of envy or detachment. A partner who's still in sync with you sees your success as a shared gain. A partner who's emotionally checked out views your rise as a reminder of their own stagnation. And it's not always hostile. Sometimes it's subtle, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes, a congrats that sounds more like an obligation than an emotion. But you feel it, because energy never lies. So what do? You don't argue for applause. You don't chase affirmation. You notice. A Stoic man doesn't require validation to know his value, but he does acknowledge patterns. If you are consistently met with indifference when you're shining, that is not humility, it's disconnection. And here's the hard truth. When someone no longer celebrates your wins, they've stopped rooting for you. Maybe not consciously, maybe not cruelly, but something in them has stepped away. And no matter how brightly you burn, their warmth no longer returns. So you turn inward. You celebrate yourself. You tell your own soul, well done. You share your joy with people who reflect it, not redirect it. You remember that your light was never meant to shrink to fit into someone's fading attention. Because true connection amplifies your voice, it doesn't mute it. Let's move on. The last signal is the quietest, but it speaks the loudest. Number 10. The coldest silence, when indifference speaks loudest. You come home later than usual, tired, maybe frustrated. You brace for a question, a comment, a look of concern. But none comes. She doesn't ask where you've been. She doesn't ask how you're feeling. She doesn't even look up. This isn't peace, it's absence. The space is shared, but the energy is hollow. When a woman who once cared deeply begins to feel like a stranger in your own home, you don't need a confrontation to know something has changed. This is not anger, it's disengagement. It's the silent verdict of a heart that has already let go. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And when her thoughts no longer include you, when her emotions don't ripple with your presence or your absence, you can feel it in the colorlessness of the air between you. It's not tension you feel, it's detachment. Some men confuse this cold quiet for maturity. They think, at least we're not fighting. But absence of conflict is not the same as presence of connection. A home without tension isn't always peaceful, it can be empty. Indifference is not neutral. It is, often, the clearest expression of a bond that is broken beyond repair. When she no longer reacts to you coming and going, when your voice fails to spark her attention, when your joys and your struggles are met with silence, this is not calm. This is withdrawal. And yet, the Stoic doesn't panic. He doesn't beg for response or chase warmth that is long faded. He notices. He reflects. He honors the truth of what is. Because to stay where you are no longer received is to deny your own dignity. It is to remain in a place where your spirit slowly forgets its own value. This moment is not about blame. It's about recognition. She may not say she's done, but you don't need words to know. The way she stops looking at you, the way her hand no longer reaches across the table, the way her goodnight fades into nothing. These are her silent declarations. So you stop listening for her to speak, and you start listening to what her silence has already said. Because a Stoic man does not fear endings. He understands that life moves in seasons. And when winter comes, when warmth retreats and love no longer lingers, he doesn't stand outside begging spring to return. He finds his coat. He prepares. He walks on. It's not the silence that wounds, it's denying its meaning. And when the stillness of someone you love becomes the loudest sound in your life, it's time to stop waiting for change and start becoming it. Now, as we take this final step, remember, Stoicism isn't about closing your heart. It's about keeping it steady, not frozen, not desperate, just firm, present, and unafraid to begin again. Final reflection. This isn't just about signs or suspicions. It's about reclaiming your clarity when the fog of emotional disconnection starts to settle. It's about understanding that when someone's energy, attention, and presence vanish, your purpose doesn't have to vanish with it. You've walked through the signs, not to accuse or to catch, but to understand and awaken. Because the Stoic way is not fueled by fear. It's guided by awareness. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." These trials, subtle betrayals, fading affections, emotional absences, are not here to break you. They are here to sharpen you. And the sharper you become, the more you can walk through life without bending to confusion, without collapsing under the weight of someone else's withdrawal. You've learned how to read the unspoken. You've recognized that silence has a weight, sarcasm has roots, and coldness has intent. But none of these define you. They reveal the temperature of the connection, but you decide the climate of your inner world. Let me say this clearly. You are not weak for noticing. You are not insecure for asking questions. And you are not wrong for expecting presence from someone who once gave it freely. Your instincts aren't paranoia. They're wisdom knocking on your heart's door. So if you felt the shift, the withdrawal, the silence, let that be your signal. Not to panic, but to pivot. Not to chase, but to choose. And above all, not to break, but to breathe. Come back to your center, your focus, your worth. Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. That's the heart of this video. To help you remember that even when love falters, your strength does not have to. Even when someone walks away, your mission does not crumble. Even when she stops choosing you, you still get to choose how to carry yourself with grace, with stillness, and with power. If this video stirred something within you, if you recognized a piece of your own story, drop a comment. Share one sentence, one reflection, one truth. Your words might be the exact reminder another man needs to see clearly today. And if you found wisdom here, subscribe to Stoic now. Not just to support the channel, but to anchor yourself in a space where clarity is king and emotion bows to purpose. Until next time, remember, You don't need her presence to find your peace. And you don't need her words to write your next chapter. You only need the quiet certainty that your soul knows the way. Follow it and walk on.